watching. We're back with another edition of our GMS video series, and today we have a good topic, a great topic that a lot of you definitely probably deal with currently or previously. We're going to be talking about being a student and a parent simultaneously. A lot of scholars I know have children or had children of a younger age that are now a little bit older now, but they had to endure studying. They had to endure being a student as well as being mom or being dad at the same time. So today we have a special guest, one of our very own from the GMS cohort of 2006, Dr. Jumesha Wade. And she is here to just drop her wisdom and knowledge about this whole topic. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to her really quickly so she can kind of introduce herself to you, set the tone, and then we'll get into it.
All right, like you said, I'm Dr. Jumesha Wade. I am married to Jordan Wade. You will hear 5 of my children in the background. So they're supposed to be quiet, but you know how that goes. My oldest is 10 and my baby, she's not a baby anymore, will be 5 on Saturday. She'll be 5 on Saturday. So I'm currently working for a nonprofit doing early childhood development. That nonprofit is started at 0, and I'm the director of programs there. So I'll be talking a little bit about my undergrad journey because I was pregnant my senior year, and then graduate school working on my master's and my PhD.
Awesome. So I know you have a lot of wisdom that you're prepared to drop on our scholars. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. Just talk about your journey. Talk about how you how you come through your journey, how you started in undergrad, and now where you've gotten. Just talk about step by step or quarter by quarter or event by event, how you came to be in this present moment.
Okay, cool. So like you said, I'm cohort 2006. And so I came in to the University of Oklahoma, focused on accounting, business, accounting major. The only reason I really wanted to be an accountant is because I wanted to be a businesswoman and wear suits and make a lot of money. So they said accounting was where the money was, and I wanted to do business. So I went into accounting. And then that first semester I was in, I had to take remedial math. And so I was like, remedial math, accounting, I don't really know if that's gonna add up. And I just really don't know if I like that. I just think it wasn't a good idea that I had. And so ended up switching my major to focus on human relations. And then somewhere in that transition, I met my husband, Jordan. And so, we were just cool kicking it. And I had no plans on getting married or anything like that. He was a cool dude and it worked out. And so we ended up dating, falling in love, getting married my junior year, and then getting pregnant my senior year. And this was planned, It wasn't a surprise. And so he is 3 years older than me, and he's also in the Army. And so I'll talk a little bit about him too, because he also went to grad school, and he's the dad. So that was a thing. And so anyway, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, Julia, we were trying to figure out where to live because I knew I wanted to go to grad school and I knew I needed support. And so we said, what's going to be the best place for us to go? We didn't want to stay in Oklahoma because we wanted to, do something different. So we said, my family's in Texas and his family's in Kansas. And so as I was looking for graduate programs, KU just seemed to be the best fit for what I was trying to do. The advisors were dope. And so I said, bet, let me go to KU. And so his parents lived about 30 minutes away from KU. And so that's where we ended up. And so that fall, he was in Kentucky. He was in a lot of different places. So he was away doing military work. And so I ended up moving in with his parents because we could afford a place and things like that. But I'm an extrovert. And so I said, I really don't want to be living in a new place with a new baby without my husband. So let me move in with them. And so I moved in with them, had Julia that August. So I moved in with them in May, had Julia in August. And everything was great, started grad school in educational psychology, focused on adolescent development. So then had her, everything was great. Got pregnant again. So she was about 4 months when we got pregnant again. I don't recommend that for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, we got pregnant again on purpose. I don't know, again, just babies are so cute. And I'm now a birth worker. So like, it makes sense. I'm just gonna do birth work, but not have any more babies. So anyway, So get pregnant with JL, and then grad school is going. And then next semester, I lose my stepmom and my great grandmother in the same semester. Forgot about a test. And I was just like, how do you forget about a test? And I kept saying like, well, this is my introduction to graduate school. So if this is what it's going to be, then it can't get harder than this. Like I'm pregnant I got a, baby that's less than 1, and then I'm pregnant, and then I'm without my husband for a little bit of that semester, but he came back in February, I think. And then I lost 2 people that were very close to me. And so that was a really hard semester, but my advisor was supportive. He literally emailed me because I was taking a class with him and said, hey, you didn't do this test. And I was like, a test? How did I miss a whole test?
Wow.
And so, so he was very gracious and very supportive. We're I would say, we're colleagues now, but I would also say we're friends, more like family. And so anyway, had JL in 2011 and decided to move into our own place. And so we moved into my kids. Can you hear my kids? Are they real loud?
They're fine. They're fine.
Okay. I'm like, how loud are they
going? We're doing this in real time. That's
right,
the whole
real
point.
time. And we quarantine, so it's the whole situation over here. So anyway, went on to continue to be in that grad program, and then in 2011, I had another daughter, so that was JL. Bought a house, moved about 30 minutes away from the grandparents, so still pretty close. Continue my educational journey with KU. Most of my classes were on campus. I'm just better with on-campus classes. It gave me a way to get out, to be free from being with the kids all day, because I didn't have to work during this time, which was a blessing. My husband worked full time, and it was able, I was able to, we were able to live, comfortably with his income. And I also didn't want to have childcare because my babies are really little, and I wanted to be home with them and breastfeed and things like that. It just made more sense for me to be home full time and just do my classes when they took naps and they went to bed early. And so I would, do my homework at those times as well. And then 2012, I had another baby. So I had a boy. Like I said from the beginning, I have 5 children. Their current ages are 10, 9, 8, 6, and 5. This Saturday, she'll be 5. Jesse will be 5.
They are a close group, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're best friends and worst enemies. So it just depends on the day. But it's fun. I wanted a big family, mainly because I was planning for adult children, so babies and then adult children, and I'm really in the middle of that. So I don't know how I'm gonna do for these next few years, but I'm gonna push through. And so in 2012, when my son was born, I've also had 5 home births. And so that's a big part of my journey, because I had home births and I became a doula after I had him. And so my journey is really personal, and it's driven by my experiences of having kids and having to be in school and having to have a husband that was away in the military and that kind of thing. And so Junior was born, Jordan II, he was born in 2012, and he was sick. And so he was in the NICU for a month. And so at that point, I really had to, it just made everything seem clear. I think school is an idol, especially when you're an overachiever. You're like, I'm just about school. I'm about achievement. I'm about accomplishing. And I got this family and they cool. And so what it made me realize is that motherhood, if I didn't realize it before then, at that moment, I realized like it's all encompassing. So it's like everything had to stop to be able to parent and focus on him and focus on his health. And at first they were saying he was going to have some severe delays, and they were saying something about his heart. And I was just already like, okay, nothing else. Everything stops. I need to focus on my child. And so I, withdrew from school and had just said, it's I got to focus on him. And my advisor actually came to the hospital to visit my son. And so it was a big deal. He was like, this is the last thing you need to be concerned about, And so that also, you don't really hear that. I see emails and memes flying around where professors have said, well, you get a week or a day or something when you have lost a loved one and you just need to turn your paper in. You get a week, if that, And so for him to say, really, like, forget this whole semester. And it was November, but he was like, forget what's going on right now. Like, this is your priority. And then to have him also be a pastor himself. And so he was in at KU, but then he was also pastoring and lay minister and things like that. And so that just meant a lot to me, because my faith is a big part of my journey. And so everything stopped. and I had to really ask myself as he was recovering, and, we were trying to figure out what was really going on with him. Thankfully, he's healthy, happy, emotionally intelligent. He's great. He's 8. So that's another conversation, but he's a great kid, and we're just glad. He's a miracle. He really is a miracle. He was on life support for a week.
Wow.
So, and then in the hospital for a month. So after that, we were like, we're done with kids. We good. Like, we got the 2 girls, we got a boy. We don't want to go through this again. And we're like, cool, but we were young. I think that was 2012. So I guess I was only 24 or something. So I was like, well, I mean, we're young. We don't want to just shut it down. Like, let's think about this. Even though we both said we good. And then he hit 1, and we were still like, man, we getting sleep for the first time in 3 years. We're good. And then, like I said, I became a doula, and I had my first client, and I was like, I want another baby. Like, we need to have another baby. My husband was like, wait a minute, you was at this birth for 2 days, and you told me all the stuff that happened, and like, what you mean you want another baby? And I was like, I just don't feel like we're done. And so he was like, oh, I'm done. Like, I'm good. And I was like, okay. And I was asking all my friends, like, how do you know you're done? And all of them were like, girl, you're trying to finish grad school. You already got the 3 kids, but one of them that has 5 kids, you got to ask the right people. You got to ask the people that's going to say what you, that will say what you want.
I get it.
So I asked one of my homies, I was like, she has 5 kids. And I said, how do you know when you're done? She's like, you just know. And I was like, okay, I don't feel done. And so I just really prayed and really was like, okay, we done. I'm gonna have to be okay. If we're not, he gonna have to be okay. And so we ended up deciding we wanted to have 1 more baby, and so you heard me say 1 more baby, but that's the 4th. And so we decided we want to have 1 more baby. And, we had him. It was great. I was living my best life during that pregnancy. And, but then after that, I had what I know now is postpartum anxiety. People talk a lot about postpartum depression, but they don't talk about postpartum anxiety. And so, I was just couldn't think, couldn't focus, was just worried. So I went to counseling, went to therapy, and took him with me, and took the other 3 kids, my mother-in-law. And I said, okay, here's what's in front of me. So she said, this is kind of like a midlife crisis, but you're only 25 or something, 26, but your life is set up to where you're like 30 plus, because you've been married this long, you got all these kids, and so we're just talking about it. And he's sitting on my knee, and I said, he was talking, he's a talker like his mama. He was talking to the therapist, okay, he's not coming back next week. So then I came back to therapy the next week. I had found out I was pregnant. And so I was like, I know what the problem is. And so she was like, okay, and I was like, well, I'm pregnant. And she was like, didn't you just have a little baby on your knee last week? And I was like, yes, he's 3.5 months. And here's another one. And so we always joke, because I threw my husband this really big 30th birthday party. And it was mostly like all of our friends are couples. And so it's like a couples get together. We're like, somebody gonna get pregnant tonight, And it was us. And so that's how
Foreshadow.
Yeah. So it was us. So that's his 30th birthday present. So we're good. And so, we officially decided we were good. And so I think through this whole time, so Jesse was born that November, and it's great. So we have 3 November babies, all 3 babies, last 3 babies in November and 2 in August. And so I have more on those stories later, but we're talking to parents, and so we know it's real. And it's gonna happen. You people get pregnant, and most pregnancies, I think my midwife told me only about 60-something% at one time, she told me, of pregnancies are actually planned, and so a lot of it is a surprise, and that's like married or unmarried, partnered, whatever you want to call it. And it's a surprise. And so I think when you're a student, you staying up late doing what you do, it happens. And so that fall, my husband actually quit his job, his full-time job, to go to seminary. So we 5 kids in. I'm trying to finish my PhD, and then he starts his master's. He already had a master's in youth and family ministry, and then he started a program with another master's working on his MDiv. And so, and I was home. My world was rocked, because I found out I was pregnant, and then I was like, there is no way I can have 5 kids and finish a PhD. It's just not happening. Like, I cannot do that. Like, nobody does that. It's ridiculous. How do you even do that? And so I took off that. I actually, before, when I found out I was pregnant with her, I was already doing bad in my classes, because, I was struggling with anxiety. And so I said, I should probably just quit. I'm going to quit now because why? Like, why, how am I going to do this? And so I talked to my advisor. He even like took me to dinner. He took me and my husband to dinner, like, hey, just take a few weeks, take an incomplete, and I was like, incomplete? I don't take incompletes. Like, what is an incomplete? How do you even do that? Because I had never taken an incomplete. I had never even dropped a class up until that point. I just pushed through, and so I couldn't push through at that point. And we had dinner with him and I said, he's so nice. Like I left crying, back to the car. My husband, like, he's so nice. Like he really thinks I'm coming back. And I'm not coming back. I told him I'm not coming back. And my husband was like, I mean, it is what it is, he was with my advisor, like, hey, just take some time off and come back. And I was like, both of y'all are wrong. I'm the one that has to do this. I will not, I withdrew. So I withdrew from those classes. And that was hard. So that whole pregnancy, I was really just sad. I didn't know like what else to do, what to think, how to feel. I didn't even want to be pregnant. That was the first time from a pregnancy that I didn't want to be pregnant. And so it was just challenging. It was a challenge all around. And then when my husband was like, I think I'm gonna go to school, I was like, dang, you get to go to school and like I can't even finish because I physically couldn't. He was saying if you want to go back, go. And I was like, I can't do that. But then you shouldn't go, so it was a whole some tension, some friction between us. And so I took off that fall and had the baby, her little cute self, it was great. But I still was like missing something. I was like, I want to finish, but how? Like, how do you actually do this? Especially because for me, I didn't want to have like full-time childcare. That was the issue. My husband had been encouraging me, you should have full-time childcare. And I was like, no. And I think it's one of those like services. Like some people will tell you, even if you can afford it, like do a housekeeping service, do a meal prep service. And I think especially for women, it's like, no, I can do it all. Like I want these types of meals. I want this kind of care for my kids. I want my house to look this kind of way. And so we get caught up in when we could afford to do something, or even people have donated, giving us money to like get a housekeeper for 6 months or something like that. A group of friends did that for us, but I was still like, it's impossible, And so come spring 2016, I was like, I think I should enroll again. And this time I'm going to get some childcare help, and I'm gonna just figure it out. It was rough. It was so rough. It was rough. And I was like, this is why I shouldn't have came back. Because what happened was I was back in those same 2 classes that I had dropped. And I was like embarrassed that I was back. And I was embarrassed that I had another kid. And then every time people would say, dang, you got how many kids? Even 2 kids, 3 kids. Once you get to 3, it's like, you got how many kids? Why? Especially in academia, a lot of people, especially they're older, they're white. So even if they do have kids, their kids are grown, and they might have 1, maybe 2, or no kids, and they made the choice to not have any kids. And that's just hard to even tell them that, you have kids. Not only do you have kids, you got a bang of kids. You got 5 of them.
Well, let me. I'm gonna pause for a second. I want to ask you, since we're talking about this, how did you actually manage all of this, time-wise? You have 5 different kids on 5 different schedules. Plus, you're trying to focus on what you need to focus on to achieve what you ultimately want to achieve. So, how did you do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, my husband is dope. We're both eldest children. So I'll say that. Like when I say everybody ain't us, like I just have to put it out there. I finally come to the conclusion. Like we're just a powerful couple. We're dynamic. We're leaders. And so like we get stuff done. So we keep stuff in order. So from the beginning, as much as you can get kids on a routine or whatever, we put our kids to bed before 8 o'clock. And at different times that was 7 o'clock, depending on their age, because they really do need a lot of sleep. And then they're ready to go to bed. So most little kids, babies and toddlers, they need to go to bed before 8 o'clock. And so barring family schedule, stuff like that. So because they needed to go to bed, it was like, okay, well, we're going to get them in the bed, at 8 o'clock. And then you have most of us stay up to 11 o'clock. And so that's when I would do the majority of my studying. And then 2 nights a week, So that's studying. And then 2 nights a week, my husband would actually keep them, and my sister-in-law helped. And so maybe I had class 4:30 to 7:30, 2, sometimes 3 nights a week. And so she would come over at 4 and stay with the kids till about 6, or even 3:30 and stay with them till about 6. And then my husband would get home and switch off with her. And so she actually had a son. So she would come over with her son and then keep 3 of my kids at that time. So there's been different times like that where my sister-in-law helped me, or my in-laws helped me. If I needed a weekend to study and my husband was away, they would help keep the kids for a weekend, and I could grind out some projects and some work. And so it's really just maximizing my time. I really, I set timers for everything. And so
wow, okay.
I turn off my phone, turn off distractions, and set the timer and get it done. And I would make a detailed list. Like if I have a study session from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. because I would stay at Starbucks till like 12 a.m. sometimes. And that still gave me a decent amount of sleep. I say like 5-6 hours. That's decent for grad school. And so I would go and I have my list 8. Here's what you're gonna work on at 8 to 8:30, whatever the time block was that I needed to edit a paper, to then draft this paper, to grade student work, because I was a GTA a few semesters. So it's a lot more to the story. We can chop it up later. Y'all can find me, we can talk about it. But that was the biggest thing. Setting timers, being strict about my time, understanding that just because I would bank on like, oh, I'm gonna do it during nap time, but you don't know if the kid's gonna nap or not. So instead of banking on like nap time, I remember my daughter would wake up, my last baby would wake up at 3:30 a.m. every day for a while when she was nursing and stuff. She'd wake up at 3:30, so I go in her room, nurse her, and I'd be standing outside her door like, I can go this way and go to my bedroom, I can go this way and go to the kitchen, give me some coffee and start the study session. And so I literally, so I have a husband, and so that's really helpful. I'm an extrovert, so I have a lot of friends, but then my husband was gone this particular summer and I was taking a class. And so I was solo parenting, not single parenting, to be clear, but I was solo parenting, and that was my only time to work. So I would work from 3:30, nurse her. So before 4 o'clock, go into the kitchen, get my coffee, work on this one class I was taking from 4 a.m. to about 6:30 a.m., 7 sometimes. The kids would get up, so I would let them sleep till they got up, but they would get up about 7:15, get them breakfast, get dressed, go to the gym, because that's 2 hours of childcare. So I was paying $50-$60 a month, but then I get 2 hours of childcare. I will work out for an hour. So tell you a typical day that year, that semester, summer. Work out for an hour, then read whatever I needed to read for fun, actually, because I had already done some work. So I read for fun for 45 minutes, an hour, take a shower. So within that 2 hours, work out, do something for myself, and then take a shower, pick the kids up, and then either go to another play date to hang out with some friends, or go to the zoo or something like that, because I didn't have to go to work. They were home with me this whole summer, 5 kids for 8 weeks.
Wow.
I'd be thinking like, I don't know how I did that. So then we would come home, have lunch. They would all take a nap. I would take a nap too. And so we would sleep for 2 hours, and then they would get up, and then we would clean up and, do a little evening routine, eat dinner, watch something together, all of us, or play. They were little kids at that point, and then put them to bed, and I would watch A Different World. That was the year it came out on Netflix or something. And so I would watch that, 2 shows, have me a little special snack, ice cream, whatever I wanted, watch 2 shows, talk to my husband for like 20-30 minutes, and then go to bed. And that was the day.
And do it all over again.
Do it all over again. Do it all over again. And so, and like I said, he was gone in Oklahoma for the whole summer, and I had a little bit of help, but I didn't really want help. I was like, I'm in the zone right now. And so if this summer could be a deal breaker. Like, we've built this routine into our kids. We have our evening routine where we read the Bible and sing and pray, and they don't really do a lot of screen time because I'm a child developmentalist. So like, I know all the stuff about screen time. So it's not, parents do what they do. For us, we didn't do a lot of that before COVID.
Get it.
So I didn't want them to have a lot of screen time. So I was like, it's either this summer's gonna make or break our family. And so I ended up just pushing through. But when he got back, I was done. I was so done. I was like, I can't do it no more, And I actually did take an incomplete in that class, but then I finished it up 2 weeks later. I was like, I should have told you this beforehand, but I guess I was trying to push through. But I'm home with 5 kids, my husband, and I was like, now it feels like an excuse, but I ended up telling him. He was like, cool. When do you think you can have it done? And I was like, oh. And so it's like that simple. So part of managing your time is like taking extensions, asking for extensions and taking them and not feeling guilty about them. People ask for extensions all the time, and you got to know the professors and stuff like that. But like asking for an extension, being honest about what your situation is.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother's died, and I was like, do they really understand Black grandmothers? You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't just granny that you just saw every now and then and y'all make some cookies together. Like, she raised me. And so in 2016, my first semester back, we lost 2 grandmothers. My husband's, my grandmother, my husband's grandmother, and 2 aunts, like all in a semester. And so I think I felt like I was lying or something, like, hey, we actually lost another grandmother. Hey, I actually lost, and it legitimately lost 11 relatives in 18 months. This is pre-COVID,
Wow.
and so just old age and health issues and just different things. But it was 11 relatives between the 2 of us while being in school.
So let me ask you this. You talk about, I'm going to kind of jump really quickly. So you talked about your husband a good amount. So, I know I'm completely understanding that everybody doesn't have a spouse.
Yeah.
But how important is some type of significant other, or if you do have a spouse, how do you kind of, not going to say split the responsibilities, but how do you kind of manage everything? And how does that, having that other piece, kind of help balance everything, I should say?
Yeah, so I think because I started out as a stay-at-home mom, we just had a lot of like traditional ideals about how stuff should happen. Then my last few years, either being a GTA or working full-time. I worked full-time while finishing the PhD dissertation phase the last year. And so I think it's conflict. Like, be okay with conflict, be okay with like reorganizing your whole life, because you don't know what a person is going through. You don't know if I'm having anxiety, I cannot function like I used to. Or if, my students' papers, I'm not able to grade them. Like, you think you have, when you're in grad school, you think, oh, I'm gonna write this paper tonight. And in the paper, it don't get done because you can't function, you were distracted, you were wasting time, whatever it was. It doesn't always happen like that. So then you like, dang, I gave you 4 hours to work on this paper and you ain't get it done. Like, ain't no more time. And so you either have to give that person some more time, or you have to say, I'm gonna have to get up and sacrifice my sleep to make this work. And so there's this tension of how do we both achieve our dreams and our goals while like supporting the other person. And that's just like the work stuff. You still have like managing the kids together. When they little, you're like, oh, we're not gonna, let's say, whoop them, for example. I'm not gonna whoop my kids. But then they start acting up, and then one spouse wants to whoop, one spouse doesn't, or one partner wants to. And then you like, okay, what we gonna do? Because they acting up and your methods ain't working. And like they can't just be wilding out, and so like that creates tension. Like, what kind of food you want to eat, how you gonna work out, when you gonna have sex, all of these different things come into play when you're trying to figure out how to be a good partner. And then this political climate, I tell a lot of my newlywed friends, this is the wrong climate to be getting married in. So we got some skin in the game. We'll be married 12 years in March. And so we were arguing about stuff. We weren't arguing about like political ideologies. And so now some of that is coming up for different people, and conflict with family, where you're having to cut family off because of, racism, sexism, queer phobia, all of that. And so that's tense. So we do have some skin in the game, some relational capital that we can draw from to keep us strong. But like I said, we go to church, and so our faith is a big part of how we stay connected. Just talking, I told one of my people in my church, I was like, oh, we've been fighting a lot, a few months ago, probably before a few months. It's like, I'm not worried if y'all fighting. When y'all stop fighting, that's when I'm gonna start getting worried, because y'all have like given up or indifferent or whatever. So I was like, okay, this is good. Like, it's good. I'm like, it's not great, but it's good that we're still willing to engage and deal with each other. And then there's times where we get silent, and I'm like, oh no, like we might really be in trouble if we just not willing to deal with each other or talk about it. And so you can only have those periods for a certain amount of time before you say, okay, we're committed to this, whatever this is, the marriage, the kids, the togetherness, you know, we're committed to this. And so how are we going to make this work well for us?
So it kind of sounds like that you guys naturally build off of each other. You have a good, I mean, the partnership that you have is definitely for the best of you and for the best of, you know, your children's sake, which kind of leads me to, you know, not leads me, so to say, but I want to ask, you know, outside of, you know, the relationship that you have, you know, you're a resource to him, he's a resource to you. Outside of you, what resources did you take advantage of, or do you take advantage of to stay healthy, stay level set, and just stay on the path that you've been on, you know, being able to get things done, being able to juggle the kids at the same time? You know, what resources have you kind of tapped into?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, the YMCA was huge. Like even for kids, they have, if you're a member, they have cheaper, you know, you get a discount for being a member for the kids' activities and things like that. So the YMCA was huge. They even have like a wellness rate. So if you go in, you know, and say, hey, I want a membership and it's $70 based on where you work, you like, we got 5 kids or whatever, we can only pay this. And so they said, well, we can drop it to 42. And I'm like, bet $42 for 2 hours of childcare every day if you need it. 19 different YMCAs in the location. And so that gave me time to work out and, you know, study if I needed to, or just study. I'm like on the treadmill with my papers, you know, and I'm walking and I'm reading, or in the locker room chilling on my phone. I've done it all, you know.
Right.
And then I didn't know that there was some kind of student emergency fund, just like the department has set some budget aside for like emergencies that people might have. Every school doesn't have this, but I found out that more departments have it than not. And so that was just sticking close to your advisor and then the department secretary, being involved in the meetings. We also had a women's and gender studies at KU center, women and gender center. I forgot what it was called. I didn't use it a lot, but my last few years, they came out with a resource that had childcare in there, that had little Jayhawks, because I went to KU, where you could get together with kids, like a mommy me play group. I also had, what was the name of it? Some writing groups. The writing center, they knew me. They knew me. My writing was not up to par. And because I just, you know, I wanted to write how I speak, and you can't really do that, you know, academically, especially in the social sciences. And so they had a boot camp. I registered for every boot camp and it was free. And they gave you lunch, and it was a week long. I feel like it was 2 weeks. For sure it was a week long, but yeah, week long boot camp, meet at the library, quiet. You had accountability partners. And so I did that. I also had just a side person I could just vent to and be like, this ain't it. Like, I'm about to quit today. April, I graduated in May, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't finish this. I just cannot finish it. And she was like, she was worried. Like, she was for real worried. And she's like, I had to, I don't know what. I was just praying, you know. And so just a person that you can be honest with, like, nothing is working. My parenting sucks. My marriage sucks. My classes ain't lining up. The advisor about to get snatched. You know, my advisors were great, but some other leaders in our school, I wasn't really feeling them. And so, you know, that was a resource for me. And then Facebook, there's a doctoral mom group. It's called Doctoral Mom Life, hashtag Doctoral Mom Life. And so I think there's about 5,000 people in the group, maybe more. And I just didn't know there were so many doctoral moms, and they're in all walks of their journey. And that was dope too. So people post pictures. I finished, I proposed, so I was like, okay, that's going to be me one day. And then there's some Instagram, some IG folks, TikTok. I mean, everything is blowing up now. So it's a good time to follow some different people, Black women PhDs, Black men PhDs. And I didn't get into all of this stuff until I was working on my PhD. So that's like one of my biggest regrets, because I said, I have my school life and then I have my family life, and never shall the two meet. So I didn't really talk about my kids at school. I didn't really talk to my friends that were in, you know, my community about school. I'm like, they eyes gonna glaze over, they bored. I didn't even really talk to them. So it was like the last 2 years, and my kids were like, why didn't you tell us you were working on a PhD? And I was like, but I did. And they were like, you never told us that. And so I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean I didn't tell you. And, they're 10 and 9 at that point, 8. And they were like, no, you didn't tell us that. You just said you went to school, And so I
Wow.
literally was treating both of these areas like side jobs. And they were like all encompassing, they're not side jobs. They took everything out of me, both of them, both of these areas, being a mother and being a student. And so once I started integrating the things like, okay, I'm a mom and I'm showing up as a mom. I got kids. I got your papers ain't going to be graded if you don't turn them in by until this date, because now I'm off for the weekend with my kids, or, so those resources for writing groups and social media support. And what I find is, even though it's a social media platform, people, don't think it's authentic or whatever, you can find some people in there that you really connect with, and then you can connect offline and develop a smaller group where you meet at the same time every week or whenever to have a writing accountability. And so that's been cool too. I had a lot of accountability. I don't do nothing by myself. Nothing.
So okay, so that's good, because a lot of like you said, you don't do a lot of things like by yourself, but there are a lot of people who, I'm gonna take it all, I'm gonna figure it out, I'm not gonna ask, I'm just gonna go for it. So I definitely wanted to talk about, certain things. Of course, all regions are different, but at the end of the day, you should want to kind of seek out resources if you need them. If you're not, if you're fine, if you're stable, that's fine. But definitely outside resources, outside of the family, outside of your inner circle are definitely important. And I want to kind of ask, as we kind of come to a close, is that how did you take care of yourself? How can individuals who are out here, dealing with the same thing in school, writing papers and nursing at the same time, how did you take care of yourself? Or how can you?
Yeah, no, you definitely can. And people use that term like new levels, new devils, use a little churchy term. And I think like my self-care for when I had one kid and I was like home most of the time, that was one thing. My self-care for what I needed for being a mom of 5 kids, with husband that travels and works a lot and so on and so forth was different. And so I think if you have a foundation of just like loving yourself and just being like comfortable with where you are, especially and men struggle with this too, I'm learning more and more, but like body image stuff, especially you start having kids, you eating, they up late, you eating all the little animal crackers and Capri Suns and stuff like that. And so being okay with where you are, and that doesn't mean you want to stay there, and that's mentally, physically, spiritually, like being okay, and then setting some goals, just basic stuff, setting some SMART goals of like where you want to be, and then backwards planning from that. And so some of those things I said, I really want to work on my hair for a long time. Like my hair is kind of dry, and so to me, when I looked in the mirror and my hair is dry, that didn't make me feel good. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, okay, how do you do that? So then I went and I learned and I asked some people, and then I did that. And so I think that in general, I don't care about my hair. But it was that particular thing in that season was weighing on me. I was losing hair from, being postpartum. And so I was like, okay, I got to work on this. And then another season, I wasn't happy with my spiritual life. I wasn't praying. I was like really anxious all the time. And so I said, okay, what are some things that help with being anxious? So I started being outside more. I started hiking, and I started a Black girls hike group here in Kansas City. And so it's that kind of stuff. So just being able to ebb and flow with what your needs are. And sometimes you don't know what they are until you actually like sit back and reflect. So when you're busy, like, listen, I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time for that. So I'm just going to keep moving. But you really need to stop and reflect, whatever that reflection looks like, talking to a friend, journaling, listen to music, and then making sense of where you are, and then figuring out where you want to go and get some accountability. So workout group, a Black girls hair group, get you a protective style, get you some childcare. So for me, my top things are working out. I love working out, and it just gets the stress out of my body, so getting stress out of my body is important. I love hiking and being outside. And then I love time with my girlfriends, that always energizes me.
Good.
And then doing like the thing that makes me feel like I've accomplished my job as a mother. For me, that's like tucking my kids in at night and doing a little special tuck-in routine. So some nights I'm like too tired and I just don't want to deal with them, and I don't do that. I always feel like I missed something that day. So I can give them chicken nuggets all week and not care. But if I don't do some of the things that make me feel like I'm really winning in that area, and I just have to pick one thing. And for them, it's like tucking them in, and I tuck them in as a little animal, and we make little animal noises. And they getting older, and I'm like, the 10-year-old is like, oh no, I don't really want to do that. She started saying it like 2 years ago, but then the boys, so we still do it, and some of them still want it. And my 5-year is so funny. She wants to be tucked in as Dr. Jumesha Wade. So I was like, well, what is Dr. Jumesha?
Wow.
She literally says that. It's like, what is Dr. Jumesha Wade? She plays with kids. She talks to parents. And it's just like, it's so sweet. When she first said that she plays with kids, she plays. I hadn't been playing with them a lot at the end of my PhD. So she started this like a year ago, year plus. I want to be Dr. Jumesha Wade. I'm like, what does she do? And I was scared. She's like, she's always gone. She works a lot. And she's like, she plays. And I was like, whew, thank you, And so that was a win for me. And then, intimacy, all levels, with my husband is really important to me. And so, because we a lot of time tag team and like, okay, you got the kids, I got the kids. And it's like, no, where's our date time? Where's our, together time? And so getting that in is also really important. So they watching Beyblades. Heard that one. They're watching Beyblades, y'all. I can't even with Beyblades, Pokemon, Bakugan. It's too much. It's too much.
It's a lot of them. I know. But so I want to lastly, before we get out of here, I wanted to give you 30 seconds, right? And I want to give you 30 seconds to just tell those who have been in your shoes or who are currently in your shoes, just 30 seconds. What do you want them to know?
I think figuring out how to be your authentic self. Like you a parent, you a student, you probably work, probably got some kind of personal issues and all of that. Like you don't leave any of that in any one area. Like you do it all the time. And so trying to compartmentalize, you have to do that sometimes, but to be able to bring your full self, all that you are, for me, unapologetically Black and a Christian and a mom and a military wife and a pastor's wife, that's a whole lot. And so I try as much as I can to bring all of that, even though I don't have a lot of examples of it. So in many spaces, I am the example. And so just kind of fully live in that, so that it's encouraging to somebody else, because you don't know who's watching you and who needed you in that moment to be your true self.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I definitely thank you for the time. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. And I know the scholars out there, whether they are in your shoes or have been in your shoes or maybe potentially about to step into your shoes.
They don't know yet. They might be pregnant right now.
So I definitely thank you for taking the time. I love, there's so many resources within the GMS community. So I love when alum come back, as you've done tonight, give back, give your thoughts, give your knowledge, and bestow that upon scholars. So I really appreciate it. So with that said, everybody, I want to thank Dr. Wade for just giving us this wisdom. We will be following up with a lot more videos. Also, if there's anybody who would like to reach out to Dr. Wade, we can definitely set that up, whether you're looking for resources or just an ear to talk to. I know Dr. Wade will definitely be all for it. So with that said, scholars, thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy it. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank y'all. Thank you, Justin.